der grüne Knopf weiter und der rote zurück. Und
Roter Knopf, oh je.
wieder zurück. Und der schwarze, wenn du in eine ganz arge Folie hast, die keiner sehen soll.
Oh. I'm getting a red button. Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to be back here. My first was in 2010, so a long time ago. And I remember that back then, I actually met Henry Lovert from Stanford, who's also one of the first esports researchers. And we were like, yeah, cool place. We met actually at the World Cyber Games in 2004. So, and that's the part where it is great to have those talks about. And what I want to talk about is a passion project from me and my colleague Rune Anderson about the Academic Esports World Tournament. As the vice mayor was already telling a little bit about the idea where esports and all of those topics have a huge impact on the youth generation. And that's the interesting part where we see how engaging it is for young kids, young students to actually deal with those topics and actually learning something. Yeah, back in 2010, my talk was about World of Warcraft and what skills you are learning about in World of Warcraft. And I'm still at the topic, what can you learn from video games in the real world? And being a gamer, somehow I made it to a professor for academic esports. So somehow that gaming was not that bad. And yeah, here on that picture, you see the winners of the Academic Esports World Tournament in 2024, UNSW Sydney. And I mean, at least it looks like they are happy, even though they had nearly no sleep the whole week, had a lot of competition and a lot of stress. I always start with a short definition of what is esports. As we all know, with academics, we have a million definitions and everybody is talking about a different topic. And that's why I always quite happy if I'm one of the first, because then I can dominate the narrative, how esports is defined, and then everybody else has to follow. So sorry about that, Markus. Yeah, so what we define esports is a relatively broad definition. So most of the time, people are focusing on the highly competitive events and the highly professional events. But what we are looking into is more the idea, it is something that everybody plays. And you have this human element, you have the video game element, and you have the competition rules. So that also means you have speedrunning as an esports title. You also have my favorite, Race to World First in World of Warcraft. Always looking in the crowd. Someone else's? Okay, at least one guy. There's always one. But yeah, that's why we are looking at a broad definition. And that nearly means that nearly every video game is an esports title. It might not have a competitive scene. It might not have a flashy IEM Cologne event, but you see a lot of those matches happen. And also where like Excel can be in esports. Personally, I don't understand it, how you can play Microsoft Excel, but okay, we are inclusive in that sense. Yeah, but that's the part where that's the definition. And what we at the University of Agda are working on is the idea of what is academic esports. So the idea is not about that students are playing esports and becoming esports pros, but when they are doing their bachelor degree at our university on academic esports, it's all about the idea of using esports to learn something. And that's where esports is integrated into the narrative, into the teaching, into the environment. And that also still doesn't mean that they play the whole time, but they are doing events, they are doing tournaments, they are doing everything on their own. And today is Saturday, so our students are now doing an event called Games for Arcade, where they go into a shopping center, build some arcade machines, bringing them there and getting charity money. And this is something where they learn a lot of skills. And also it connects people. They have some narrative they are talking about. They have something shared as an interest, especially with our teachers as well, where all of them are mostly gamers as well. And that's where we see as well, where with the competition element, there is an incentive in there to learn something because I want to win. And I know this is something where gamification is often frowned upon, but what we are seeing there is the idea, okay, they have to learn to win. And this is something where suddenly they are quite interested in that and trying to share all of those informations and all of those concepts. And yeah, that's why we then created the Academic Esports World Tournament 2024 in the wonderful island of Maui. Obviously, everybody who did organize an event probably knows we didn't see that much sun. But I do know at least some of the students had a nice time seeing the water, swimming around and everything. But it was a great location as well, where they were unified together, trying to solve all of those problems. And that's the part where it becomes quite interesting, where they don't necessarily only play video games. So obviously they play Valorant, Rocket League, and League of Legends. That was one part where they had a competition against each other. But the more interesting part, and that's what I will talk mostly about, is the academic challenge. So having a academic discussion, having a business pitch, and having a game jam. And all of that within 6 days. And there were 8 teams, 6 days. That means not much sleep, a lot of work, and the bad part is always that they actually want to win, so they spend even more time to make it nice, to make it good. And that's the part where it becomes so interesting to see that suddenly they want to win. So they spend all their time to make it happen, to make it to succeed. And that's the part where we see it became a living classroom. At the same time, they had to deal with intercultural differences. I don't know how many of you ever went to Hawaii. Hawaiians are unique. They are really chill. They're really, let's go with the wave and everything. And then Germans, Austrians, Norwegians are coming and want to have everything fixed and detailed, and just in that is a cultural clash. Then you're mixing a Korean team in there, which are also were like, oh, I'm in a Western world. How do I deal with that? So that in itself was a huge cultural clash. And that is something where we saw a lot of learning process as well happening, but also a lot of challenges, obviously. But that was something where as well we saw a lot of teamwork happening. So on top of all of that, the students were also responsible of doing the live stream. So even more work to do. And that was something where a lot of technical issues happened. The internet is not that great there, and a lot of lags and quite a lot of problems. But that was something where they had to deal with how to make that happen. And this is a nice picture as well, where you see the live stream. The whole design was done by the students. And I choose that picture because on the left, you see the representative of MCI Innsbruck. So an Austrian team was there as well and actually competed quite well, nearly made it into the finals. And I do hope they will return next year as well. But the interesting part was all of that, we were not involved in the live stream. So they made it on their own. They made this interface. And the interesting part was they also always tried to do mixed casting. So one of the one university and the other university. The other one is Hochschule Mittweida in Germany. And yeah, here you see the teams that participated, so a broad variety of different teams. And that was the interesting part where we saw how different they were approaching it. And taking the global or the game challenge, that was actually quite fascinating, where some of them produced a functioning demo of a game. I have still no idea when they did it, how they did it, and how that happened. And I want to mention two games that were designed from Yonsei and from UNSW Sydney. So Yonsei did a game for the blind people. So they captured sounds from Hawaii, birds, animals, and other animals, mostly birds. When I think of, but they captured it, collected that, and tried to use the stereoscope from the airports. And if you move in that direction, the sound changes, that direction, the sound changes, and you are walking through a map. And you have to get out of the map. And it was focused on the blind people, so they only had to listen. And it was functioning, it was working. And that was already fascinating, but I really like the idea of going out, collecting the sounds, and then putting it in there. UNSW did a demo on a game where they were dealing with the color length, the wavelength of color. So they had an instrument where, or the player, the character had an instrument where they were switching through the wavelengths. And then the map was changing. So it was a jump and run game, side scroller, but the idea was using the wavelengths and then switching through. And yeah, they had a functioning demo of that game with graphics and everything. And have to admit, a couple of other games didn't look that polished compared to that game. And that was the interesting part as well, where you saw a lot of those things happening. And going to the business challenge as well, you saw UNSW Sydney. I mean, I already spoiled, they won. They had a business pitch on mental health, where they created their own avatar, which you have to take care of it. And I know one of the apps that is now really pushed out is a similar game. So a similar concept where you have to take care of that animal and do chores, do stuff to, yeah, in the sense like Tamagotchi. Again, completely fully designed, fully visualized, a business pitch with a market analysis and everything like that. And that was something as well where, coming from a more business background, this was already polished quite a lot. So that was the part where you had that, and at the same time, they were competing. They had to play League of Legends. They had to play Rocket League and everything. And that was the interesting part, where this was like the really high performance environment where they had to do everything at the same time and manage everything at the same time. And yeah, as I said, co-produced the live stream on top of that. So a lot of tired faces at the end. And yeah, moving on, we definitely learned a lot out of that. And fun part as always with those tournaments, the winner has to make the next one. So great location as well, going to Sydney. So there is still chance to send a team. So And that's the part where Sydney, obviously, you know, UNSW Sydney is one of the top universities in the world. So they don't do half-baked stuff. Really a pleasure to work with them because suddenly everything is stepped up one level on professionalism. But yeah, so we also try to change a little bit, like the idea focusing more on the academic part, but also the part where I'm personally quite thrilled about it. The finals are in teamfight tactics. Not sure if there are teamfight tactics players here. Okay, at least a couple of them. For me personally, this is probably one of the most academic games that you can play, which is not necessarily on the idea that you have to click fast or have a good ping or something like that. If you are smart and think about it, you can win that game. And we are doing 4 versus 4, which is still one of the things which makes it even more interesting, where everybody plays against each other and you actually have to sacrifice a player to push the other player on top. And that will be really curious to see how that works out. But yeah, we see that this is then something where it's a living laboratory. A lot of ideas are happening, a lot of concepts are happening there. And what we are trying to do is there as well to showcase the students as well, a bigger spotlight on them. Because out of that, they are learning a lot, but also they are becoming a more and more professional and getting the chance to showcase what they are good at. I know one of the students from UNSW Sydney now does an internship at Industrial Light and Magic, so the guys behind all the special effects of Star Wars. And at least what he told me that that tournament was at least a little push that gave him an edge against the others. And that was the interesting part as well, where they not only learn a lot, but they are also showcasing what they are doing and how they are doing because everything is visible. And yeah, that's the part as well where we see a lot of knowledge is created. And that's for research part, definitely something where a lot of interesting stuff is happening. And yeah, we are aligning that with research as well. Hopefully we will have more time on that. But that's something as well where there will be a workshop for researchers as well. So if someone wants to come, just let me know. And that is the part where it becomes so interesting if you look at it from an education perspective. So my background is human resource management. And when I did my dissertation, it was on big data in human resource management. Remove big data, put AI in there, technically the same thing. But it showcases a lot that we are in a situation where we all talk about the idea that AI is replacing all our jobs. I mean, always beautiful on a headline in a newspaper. I think the Spiegel had something on that just recently. But it is a bit more nuanced. So obviously not all jobs are replaced. There are new jobs that are happening. And think about the discussion, I think it's hopefully over now, last year about the prompt engineer, where everybody was saying, yeah, we all need to be prompt engineers and everything. Yeah, okay, AI got smarter. So nowadays you can nearly throw everything at it and it somehow makes some order out of it. So I actually use it a lot to order my thoughts. But that's the part where what we do need is the idea of people who are thinking outside of the box, thinking stuff that AI doesn't know. Rune is always saying the best part about humans is how stupid they are because they do stupid stuff. And I really like the example. I don't know if you ever saw the Norwegian rotten fish or fish head or whatever. Don't eat it. But the idea is let's Take that thing, put it down into the earth and wait for a month. Dig it out, eat it, and apparently the first one died. Okay, everybody would say, sure, let's don't do that again. Okay, they did it again. Let's do a week longer. Okay, that person apparently survived and find it amazing. And just the idea when AI would say, yeah, okay, that doesn't make sense. Why should we do it? Is something where the humans have this opportunity to think outside of the box, seeing something, seeing concepts that might be interesting, might be relevant. And we have a lot of issues, a lot of challenges, and good example as well. Here, Guard is one of our sponsors of our esports team. They are doing container ship insurances. I mean, probably all of you have a container ship at home. Okay, then you are the core audience for it. But yeah, it's the first question I always hear, and you probably all have that. Why would they even think about sponsoring an esports team at a university? Obviously, for the talents. They want the kids that they're thinking, that they are challenging the existing systems. And maybe you remember the Evergrande, the ship in the Suez Canal that did the 180, and suddenly we all had to pay more or wait on our Amazon delivery, where everybody would say, sure, that can happen. But it was a surprise to everybody. And half a year later, in the Panama Canal, there was a drought, and apparently then a couple of ships were not able to go through. A drought in the climate change and everything, we would all say, sure, you should insure for that, right? Apparently, nobody prepared for that. And that's the part why the human part becomes so interesting. And that's why it's also so interesting to deal with esports people, because constantly a new patch is happening, constantly something new happens, a new hero in League of Legends. I think they are now at 150 or something around that. And the game breaks. A new thing happens. You have to do a new strategy. You have to adapt. You have to think outside of the box. And this is the part where this shifting meta game constantly happens, and you have to deal with that. And that's the part as well where we need to innovate education. And this is the interesting part where I also think we are somewhat going back into the past, where it is more about critical thinking, about having new ideas, about discussing what our old papers were written about. And I see it with one of the classes I'm teaching now. It's like, here are 10 papers, you read it and we discuss for hours. And this is something where we are getting a little bit back into the past, but it is this part where AI pushes us to think again, think differently. And this is the interesting part with the World Tournament as well. You have to think differently because you don't have enough time to let AI do all the work. And at the same time, someone else is doing something differently and has a new idea. And yeah, that's the part where human-centered by design. And that's the beauty about esports, where it is human-centered. Yeah, it is technology and everything, but without the human, esports is nothing. And maybe some of you watched StarCraft, where AI fights against AI, probably the most boring thing in the world. But if a player like TLO plays against someone else, Grubby or so, suddenly it becomes important and relevant and cool, especially those two guys who are absolutely overthinking everything. And suddenly you have this whole fun part. And yeah, that's the part where esports is a future lab, because most of the things we are seeing now is the working world of the future. Think about hybrid work, think about remote work. It is a normal thing for most esports people to do that. But at the same time, they do prefer to be physically at the same place. And that's quite fascinating to observe. And yeah, that's the part where looking at it, it becomes quite educational. And yeah, summarizing or summing it up, we still have place for people to attend in Sydney. And it will definitely be fun, that I can assure you. So if you have players at your university who are interested in joining, the good part there is, I know Sydney is far away, but UNSW Sydney is covering the accommodation and most of the food. So technically, it's probably only the flight, only, but still, that is the good part. And I definitely, when I see the students doing it, it's a great pleasure to see it, how it happens. So check it out. But also, if you have questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me or to Rune. And yeah, that's all from my side. And I think I'm quite good in time, right?